Now, the thing I was fearing the most when it comes to NLE Choppa being woke is now actually happening. Like the title says, they're trying to silence NLE Choppa, man, and I do not like that. So yeah. Let's talk about it. Now, NLE Choppa, I like NLE Choppa, man. He's became a very positive light in the industry as of lately. That's obviously because of his spiritual awakening he had back in 2020. NLE Choppa blew up in a game with Shot of Flow when he was 16, back in 2019. That's over 2 years ago, and ever since then, his career has elevated substantially. He has a couple really big songs under his belt and has definitely a lot of other notable accomplishments to his name. Most importantly of all, though, I think he's shown a lot of growth on the personality/character aspect, which I think is way more impressive. In 2020 though, we saw NLE Choppa showing a very different side of him to the world. He started opening up about everything from meditation to spirituality to how the media is a distraction to connecting with your higher self to fasting to diet, etc. Just a lot of things you wouldn't expect to hear from a guy like NLE. And these are definitely not things that were new to me or actually to most people, especially if you've been tuned into Spiritual Souls content. He's an advocate of a lot of these beliefs and practices. Like I said though, it was the unexpected part of the equation that made NLE Choppa's transition so much more impactful. Apart from just preaching, he of course stuck to his words and dropped our woke project, From Dark to Light. It's been interesting seeing him go through this transition though, because in this day and age, when it comes to hip-hop, at least as far as the younger generation goes, we don't see a lot of young rappers, hardly any actually, making this kind of transition. I always felt like X was gonna be that guy. He was on this journey, but obviously never, unfortunately, got the chance to truly walk that path. It was his birthday the other day, by the way, so long live X. Happy birthday, my guy. Now back to NLE Choppa though. The other day, he opened up about a couple things that have been going on behind the scenes, and it involves his label silencing him. This is what he said on Twitter. Not dropping anything else after my video tomorrow. Warner Records are trying to disable my freedom of speech on the platform I work best. Until this change, this will be the final video I put out on my behalf. Love y'all, always. And then he followed that up with this tweet right here. Not signed to a label. I have a partnership with APG and Warner for my label, No Love Entertainment. Since they aren't moving like partners, I won't be doing anything else. I have creative control to do this, so I will be using my creativity when I know everyone's on board. Thank you. I think what NLE Choppa is trying to say here is more than obvious. He mentioned Warner Records, which is the label he's in business with, trying to disable his freedom of speech on his own platform. He also clarified that until this changes, I'll be putting out one more video, which he did the other day, and that was Picture Me Graping, and that's when I'll be taking a step back just so I can make sure that my partners are on board with what I'm trying to do creatively as an artist. We know that his partners in this case is the label who he has a partnership deal with, so he's not directly signed to them. This is the same kind of deal Russ had with Columbia Records when he was working with them. But NLE Choppa saying that the label is trying to disable his freedom of speech, what exactly could this mean? I'm actually not sure, really. Can't really pinpoint it since it could mean a lot of things. On top of that, there's just not a lot for us to go off of, you know, apart from those tweets that he put up. If I had to take a guess though, and let's go very abstract with this one, the spiritual, woke, positive, whatever you want to call it, music NLE Choppa makes is not, and I repeat, is not as profitable as the music he's really known for. What I'm thinking is, since Warner Records had a plan for NLE Choppa when they initially did business with him through that partnership/deal, what NLE Choppa is doing right now, aka dropping woke music, let's just call it that, that simply doesn't go together with the original plan they had for him. Does that make any sense? I don't know how exactly they're disabling his freedom of speech. It could be in terms of they're holding back on supplying him with a budget for the songs/album he's currently making, because that's probably that woke music, right? Or it could be maybe since he's now a different artist, is now taking another direction with the music we intended for him to take, let's now put him very low on the priority list. Despite a major label having hundreds of millions of dollars at their disposal, they do operate in a way where they prioritize artists based on the return they're going to get out of investing into them. This is a very straightforward way of operating, especially in the business world, especially when there's, at the end of the day, limited amount of resources at hand. And also consider the fact that major labels have hundreds and hundreds of artists signed to them. Simply put, depending on the amount of value you bring to the label, especially if it's a major label, due to the amount of internal competition there is between all the artists, that's how they decide who to prioritize. Now, there's always going to be exceptions and different circumstances that come into play, but generally speaking, this is how major labels operate. And really, if we look at it, that's how all major corporations operate. Everything is precisely calculated. If they don't see a justifiable return on their investment, it's simply not worth investing in. And that's why there's this thing called Woke being shelved. We've seen a lot of rappers opening up about how they feel like they're being left behind by their label, or maybe they're just straight up complaining about their label for whatever reason. I'm guessing from the little information we've gathered, that might be the place NLE Choppa is currently at. Wouldn't say that NLE is getting shelved at all, absolutely not. He's a really poppin' artist, okay? But considering this woke version of him, he's obviously taken a different direction with the music, right? And it's that direction his partners, the label, were not expecting at all. So now we have a problem because this woke and spiritual music you're creating is not the plan we had for you as a rapper. This is one of the things I was fearing because I already knew the outcome was gonna be NLE Choppa won't be as hot as he previously was, simply because he's switching it up and making this kind of music now. Unfortunately, people nowadays, they're not really trying to hear that real talk nowadays, right? And the label knows that. And this is one of the biggest negatives of being signed to a label, or in this case, having a partnership with one. But let's approach this from the sign-in perspective. Everything you do as an artist now goes through the label. If in your independent days you were dropping music whenever you felt like it, you know, the fans were asking for music and you dropped it the next day, boom, just like that. The spontaneous aspect a lot of rappers have in their early days of rapping, you know, that gets taken away from them as soon as they get signed because they now have to release music on schedule. To some extent, your creativity as an artist can get suppressed, which in this case it unfortunately is for NLE Choppa because he's trying to make this woke music, maybe do some other things that align with this new version of himself on his side, but the label is trying to stop him from doing so. A really random example I want to use here to validate the dropping music spontaneously point I was making is Lil Mosey. Now Lil Mosey put up this tweet around 2 weeks ago where he said, "If I can drop today, I would. I don't have control over dates." Crazy. Stop asking me when I'm dropping. I couldn't tell you. He then responded to a fan who said, "Drop it on the 12th, which was the next day, by saying, "I chose the 12th. I guess they had a different plan. Gang, holy water coming soon though." Here's another case of the label having a plan for the artist. In this case, Lil Mosey doesn't even have a clue when he's gonna be dropping his records, which should tell you something. In relation to this NLE Choppa case, it's sad to see that he can express himself creatively without any kind of limitations. But then again, let's also keep in mind that NLE Choppa is a very specific case in the way that he didn't go into this partnership with this spiritual version of himself in mind. What I'm trying to say is, if the label knew that sometime in the future this guy's gonna go from NLE Choppa to NLE Chakra, would have they done that partnership with him or not? Definitely not. I don't think so. Not gonna side with the label or anything like that. Okay, I'm on NLE Choppa's side 1000%, but I kind of understand why this is happening. When they signed NLE Choppa or did that partnership with him, they had a very specific vision for him as an artist. That's why they signed him. And then he had a spiritual awakening. He became woke, whatever you want to call it, which then led to him talking about something completely different in the music. And you know, that thing that he's talking about doesn't happen to sell as much as the negativity. And that's obviously bad business for NLE Choppa's partner, aka the label. The only reason why he's seeing friction right now is because he's serious about expressing his true self. Hadn't he had this awakening, publicly embraced it, dropped from dark to light, it would have been business as usual, but unfortunately it ain't. I hope NLE figures this out, man. It's disheartening to see this going down. Although I did kind of see it coming, I just didn't know how it would look. But yeah, NLE Choppa is unfortunately being silenced. The details of how he's being silenced are very scarce, but I think we all can mentally fill in the blanks of what might be going on and why this is actually happening. What do you think about this though? Definitely let me know in the comment section below and let's have a discussion about this.